Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome back to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where the train continues. And now we head down to Florida Gulf Coast to talk about the Eagles with Greg Hardwig from the Naples Daily News and News Press. You can follow him on Twitter at NDN_G Hardwig. He joins us for a few minutes here to talk about the ASUN and talk about the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles. Greg, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
Doing good, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
So last year, Greg, I've started with this question with everyone that we've done the preview with. COVID is the great unknown. And this year, it looks like we're slowly headed, hopefully, in the right direction, back to fans in the stands and back to a regular season. But just talk about COVID and how the season went for Florida Gulf Coast last year in what was really a great unknown for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it really ended up affecting their season greatly. They got off to, a good start, got through all the preseason stuff, and then they got into the season, and they were 5-2. They had won at Miami, and had just beaten Georgia Southern. COVID shut down, so they were down for 2 weeks, and then came back, got in 8 ASUN games, and had a second COVID shutdown, and then they had another game wiped out because of, it wasn't a shutdown, but they had to do some contact tracing and whatever. So it was really kind of a haphazard season, really hard to get in any kind of flow. And they had just won their last 2 games against North Alabama before the second COVID shutdown, and North Alabama was either tied for first or way up there. So they were really feeling good about where they were at, got back to, where they were at before the first shutdown, they thought, and then, there it comes again. So,
and looking at the season coming in under Michael Fly, this is going to be Coach Fly's 4th year. It's a big year, I think, for him in Florida Gulf Coast. First year that he took the reins back in 2019, they were 14-18. Then they fell back to 10-22. I would have thought, Greg, that and I would think the expectations were higher. I mean, 10-8 is how they finished out. But I would think that if any team was greatly affected in the ASUN by COVID, it could have been Florida Gulf Coast with where their expectations were and where they ended up.
Agreed. I mean, they really felt good about where they were at. They had a freshman point guard named Luis Rolón that they had given more playing time to, and they were excited about him before the season. And then, when they got him integrated into everything, they really felt good at, when they were 5-2 and felt like they were going to make a mark in the conference, and then they only get in half their conference games.
So we turn our attention to this year, and is it fair, would you say, Greg, that this is a sort of a critical year for Coach Fly? I would think they have a lot of transfers coming in, and really, I think coaches are being tested in a different way. Normally, you have your veterans returning, you're trying to assimilate a recruiting class and build towards the future. Now you have, in this case, maybe don't have many freshmen coming in, but you do have a lot of transfers who I think can make that immediate impact. So talk about the transfers coming in and why I think this is a big year for Coach Fly.
Yeah, they've got 5 transfers coming in, 2 grad transfers. Matt Halverson from Western Carolina. He's a shooting guard. So, I mean, they could almost take their 5 transfers and make that a starting 5. you have Kevin Samuel as the big one from TCU, getting a Power 5 transfer into a mid-major conference like the ASUN. And he can make a big difference, on that level when you have a big man in this type of conference. That can really make a difference. And then they have Carlos Rosario from McNeese State. They have Austin Ritchie from Tulsa. And then they have Tavian Dunn-Martin, who's a point guard from Duquesne, who was the A10 Sixth Man of the Year a couple of years ago. So they've got a lot of pieces. Coach Fly has, counting this year, he has 3 years left on his contract. So how that plays into how critical a year, I don't know. But I think the fact that he's, really front-loaded this roster with no freshmen. Andre Weir is a freshman, but he transferred from Richmond. So there's not a recruited freshman on the roster. So you have a lot of experience. It's just a matter of, getting these guys to learn to play together. Like when you have that much turnover and that many new faces, I think having players like Caleb Cato, who's been in the program for 4 years and is a senior, that can help get all those kind of things, all those new faces together. So we will see. He had a lot of transfers in last year and new faces too. And again, just because of the shutdown, they didn't really get all those pieces flowing together like maybe they could have without it.
And if you look at Florida Gulf Coast under Coach Fly, the defense is solid. Last year in the ASUN, they held opponents to the second best percentage from inside the arc, 47.7%. But where they really struggled was on the offensive end. They were bottom of the conference in effective field goal percentage per Ken Palm, 3-point percentage, only 27.6%, in free throws, which many teams struggle with, at 65%. A lot of these new transfers, Greg, I think can help on the offensive end. It seems almost as if Florida Gulf Coast is saying, look, we know our defense is going to be strong, and Kevin Samuel is going to make it even better. But I think maybe they had a focus on the offensive end while they were trying to build this roster this year. Would you agree?
I totally agree with that. I mean, all these guys, not that they can't play defense or anything like that, but, aside from Samuel, these guys are primarily offensive players or, a facilitator like Tavian Dunn-Martin as a point guard who, also has a sixth man award as part of his background. But, Halverson, is a top 3-point shooter at Western Carolina and was a top one there at Southern in the Southern Conference. So, this is what they needed was more offense and trying to get more shots. I mean, a lot of their problem too was turnovers. So you have possessions with no shots. And speaking to the defensive part of it, I mean, Donnie Marsh was, that was pretty much his focus as associate head coach, and he's gone. He went to Detroit Mercy. So they have Kevin Sutton coming in, who was at Rhode Island. So we'll see, how that affects that defense when you have a piece like Kevin Samuel, and also Dakota Rivers is a, excellent shot blocker. That's going to help your interior defense for sure.
Yeah, they were first last year in the conference in adjusted tempo. And I'd like you, Greg, to speak almost to the new teams as well. The ASUN, we're based out of New Jersey. We've been huge ASUN fans, mid-major schools. We support them fully. But there are some changes this year in the ASUN. And obviously, Florida Gulf Coast and their success that they've had for several years has really brought a spotlight to the ASUN. Liberty, of course, has taken it to a new level. Bellarmine came in and was very good. But this year you have 3 new teams coming in. You have Eastern Kentucky. You have Jacksonville State. Third team coming in Central Arkansas. So the conference is expanding. The conference is getting stronger, getting a little bit more of a national spotlight. And it's going to be even more challenging than it has been in the past, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Even though, I think the main reason those 3 teams were added was to try to get the ASUN into a football conference, which is what they did. Not that these schools don't have any, type of basketball background. Eastern Kentucky, an Ohio Valley team beforehand. So, that's definitely a team with some basketball tradition, maybe more so than Jacksonville State or Central Arkansas. But I mean, you mentioned Liberty; they're still going to be the team. I mean, they got the Player of the Year coming back, and 2 other starters, I believe, and that's going to be the gold standard that everyone's going to have to shoot at, I think.
What's Coach Fly's philosophy with non-conference, Greg? So obviously last year started on November 25th, and you got right into the conference schedule. But Florida Gulf Coast, which is going to be a strong defensive team, and I think is looking to make a push to the top of the league here back in this season. What's their plan on the non-conference? I know a lot of schools haven't released the full schedule, but do you have a slate of some non-conference opponents that you know so far for the Eagles?
Yeah, a lot of these were, pretty easy to plug in because they did have several games canceled either for, they were all COVID reasons one way or another and not FGCUs. Robert Morris, Dartmouth, Rhode Island, all those were canceled games because of COVID. And originally they were supposed to play USC last year. That's who they're going to open at home with. A lot of storylines there with Andy Enfield, who's the coach during the Dunk City years coming. They started an athletic Hall of Fame, and they're going to honor the Dunk City team that night. So that's
wow.
a huge deal for them. And obviously USC is a very good team and has a lot of pieces coming back from the Elite Eight last year. They're going to open at Loyola Chicago. They just announced that. Quality program that won a couple of games in the NCAA tournament last year. And then, Florida International, FIU, and Florida A&M, they've pretty much been constants on the non-conference schedule, so they're going to play them again. They're hosting a home tournament around Thanksgiving with some lower major teams, lower to mid-major teams, Southeast Louisiana and Western Michigan are 2 of them I can think of right now. So that's not the full non-conference schedule, but USC is the highlight. They did play them out there 2 years ago and played pretty well against them, actually. So this is the end of that contract. So you have a lot of, last year was supposed to be the second year of a home and home, and now those are being fulfilled, hopefully, with no shutdown.
Well, Greg, we appreciate a few minutes here. Last question. We're going to put you on the spotlight here for the big prediction. Florida Gulf Coast was projected 5th in the preseason poll last year in the conference, and in a completely helter-skelter abbreviated year, they finished 6th, 10-8 overall, 4-5 in the conference. But the defense is elite. The transfers should help with the scoring. I project them to be fighting for a top 3 spot in the conference. What say you here with the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles as we head into 2021-2022?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this is a solid third place team that maybe can go in and beat a team like Liberty once. I don't know. There's just a gap that they're going to have to close to get up to where Liberty is. And I'm not saying they can't do it, but it's just hard with so many new pieces that are going to be expected to be big contributing pieces to get them all to play together and get in a flow, that the team last year was unable to get into because of the shutdown.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You never know, though, in that ASUN conference tournament last year, North Alabama, it was the championship game. They gave Liberty all they can handle. And Florida Gulf Coast, of course, with their pedigree, you never know there. If they can get things going, and Samuel is an absolute conference player of the year type caliber player coming in, I think they could do some real solid damage. Folks, Greg Hardwig, thank you so much for a few minutes. Naples Daily News and News Press. Follow him on Twitter at NDN_G Hardwig. Greg, we appreciate a few minutes here. The ASUN is fantastic. It's a great, fun conference that has really grown in popularity. Like you said, some teams coming in, helping with football. I think there's going to be help to basketball as well. But we appreciate a few minutes here previewing Florida Gulf Coast for us.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks again.
Are you interested in immersing yourself in a foreign culture? Have you imagined learning a new language? If so, the U.S. Department of State is looking for people like you to fill roles in healthcare, construction engineering, information technology, foreign policy, and dozens of other fields. Expand your perspective and experience a unique diplomatic career as you represent American foreign policy abroad. Visit careers.state.gov. Equal opportunity employer. U.S. citizenship required.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.